What's up, Matchbox Dow? We are so excited to introduce you to someone you've probably heard of. His name is Daniel, and we're here to talk about on-chain gaming in the space. So this is what on-chain gaming looks like, what tooling is necessary, kind of what's missing, how do we create space for devs to kind of be celebrated and uh, sponsored, make money, that kind of thing. So, Daniel, hello. Now I know we just met each other. Nice to meet you. This is going to be kind of ad hoc and casual, and that's fine. I'm wondering, first of all, can you just do a short kind of background on who you are, your history in the space, DeFi, and kind of your vision for where we're going?
Okay, yeah. So I'm Daniel. I'm based in Bucharest, Romania.
Cool.
I actually started learning programming when I was really young, like 5 years old, because my father brought a computer into the house. So I started with basic, but games were always a part of my life. And even though I really liked playing games, I also thought about like creating games at one point in life, which I think a lot of people think about doing.
Yeah.
But then I got into some people call it competitive programming, which would
Hmm.
be Olympiad or just doing problems online. And that seems extremely interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I started blockchain and like doing blockchain in 2017. I've done like hacking or let's say auditing, which is in a way the ultimate form of on-chain gaming
Yeah.
on blockchain. Because if you win the game, you win the money.
Yeah.
Um, After that, I've built Fiat DAO. Like we launched the first version, and now I'm lead tech at Eden Block VC.
I would just love to hear sort of a couple of things. One, strategically, how do you think about on-chain gaming? So, like a 0x Monaco or something, how do you kind of formulate your strategy? And or in bounty hunting, how do you kind of think about, I'm going to go after this, here's how I'm going to do it? I would just love that. And then secondly, what are you excited about in the space? What's missing in the space? What do we need to focus on to really kind of take it to the next level?
Zurich Monaco was very interesting. Actually, that was not the first blockchain game I played. I think the first one was, or I felt it was like Dark Forest,
Yeah.
which it did have a UI and it wasn't developer oriented. But as soon as I started playing, it felt like you cannot be number one at this game unless you start creating bots.
Mm,
So I thought about like, do I have the time to do that now? And at that point in time, I did not. I did play a bit using the web UI, which was super fun, and I really liked the concept and the game, the implementation, and the zero knowledge around all that. I also like the concept that was taken from Three Body Problem, and I really liked
mm,
that trilogy. So that was like my first, I think, on-chain game that I played. But with Zero X Monaco, I think it was even better because you didn't need to start building bots to see some kind of success, and it was
right.
much easier to get into. And with Zero X Monaco, I think in the beginning I just created like a really stupid algorithm because if you start playing the game, you would most likely start to win some games, so your elo goes up. So I started by creating like a very stupid strategy, just deployed it, and then started working on the next strategy immediately.
Oh,
So you kind of always like in the background, you start to watch games and you try to figure out what the others are doing, and you try to build a new strategy while that is happening. So that was
awesome.
super interesting.
In real
But
time.
then,
You're doing it in
yes,
real time.
exactly.
Jeez. Yeah.
But also, like depends a lot the strategy that is successful based on where you are on the ladder. Because on the lower parts of the ladder, uh, a great strategy, or you don't need to spend as much time on a great strategy, but on the higher parts, you need to play against your opponents. So you need to start understanding what your opponents do and how to play against them.
Hmm.
So it becomes like a cat and mouse game where sometimes you're the cat, sometimes you're the mouse, and you need to figure out what to do next.
Wow. That's cool. Um, So, when we talk about like games for devs or on-chain gaming, have you seen the Microsoft Excel championship that just happened? There's a
No, I don't
Microsoft
know it.
Excel. I'll send you a link. It's on YouTube. It's fascinating. And what I'm getting at is there is a kind of a movement towards uh, tech, apps and pieces turning into competition. So if someone could do it with Microsoft Excel, I feel like on-chain games is a no-brainer. Games for devs, competitive, and I see a future where developers maybe even have sponsors, and there's kind of an energy around it, and that's kind of what we want to do. So, in your mind, what is going to be challenges as we build that? What's exciting to you about on-chain games? I would love just your impressions on all that.
So I think there are a few parts to that. You can have devs which are playing games, or you can have devs which create AIs that are playing games. So then it kind of depends. Are you going to have a dev which always plays the same game? So that means they're going to create an AI or an algorithm that plays that game. Or are you going to have a dev that can play multiple games? So it depends on like how flexible are they in finding the optimal solution to play a game. I'm thinking, for example, I think a lot of people are familiar with Dota and the AI game. And I kind of want to see people against AI with
Well,
complex games. The problem with that, I think it's going to be it's very easy to root for a person or for a team, and you know the people and their faces and they have personalities. But with
stories,
AI stories,
yeah,
all of that, with AI we don't really have that. So we need to create like a face for the AI, and sometimes like the devs are probably not the best people because they're like to be behind the screen. They don't like to be in front of the camera and all of that. But I think we're gonna see maybe for a while some hybrid games, and then the AI will most likely take over.
in your mind, then, if we talk about on-chain gaming, kind of going mainstream, if that were a thing, what would that look like? And there's a lot of things missing. I have my own thoughts on this, but with your experience, if we want to really push on-chain games generally forward, I'm sure you think about this once in a while. How do we drive adoption, and what are some ways to make it more mainstream?
This is probably like the question, right?
Yeah,
So now I'm thinking we do have people who are very into competitive programming, and this is very fun for them. And it's also a good source of talent for companies trying to get devs. And I think it makes a lot of sense in that case. On-chain gaming becoming mainstream, this is much tougher because it's not a niche, right? So I think in my view, in the next 10 to 20 years, programming will become a part of the education and of every person in the world. I think it has
really.
to. We're
Okay.
kind of doing programming right now. Even if you have like a smart app like to control a light bulb or something like that, you're doing some kind of if and a condition and all that, and it's
There's
in
gates.
a way
Yeah.
it's programming.
Right.
So you will have people that learn programming, and then we need to find people to we need to find ways to make them play some kind of games. We even have games that are based around creating algorithms. I don't remember them right now, but they are like I would say the real games on Steam where you have to make like a person move some boxes from one place to the other, but you have to write kind of code to make them do that. So you have conditions, you have them like operations like move, take, drop, all of that, and the visual part of that makes it much easier for people to understand what's going on. So that's really fun.
So are you saying
It's
that coding is going mainstream, and as coding goes more mainstream and becomes a part of the culture, you think that on-chain gaming will come along with it and games for devs?
I think so. Yeah.
Cool.
As we have video games going mainstream, and almost everyone is playing a game now, even if they
Hmm.
have a game on the phone and they don't realize they're playing a game or they don't consider themselves as gamers,
Hmm.
that's already happening. And
Yeah,
with as we're going to see programming becoming more mainstream, gaming will already be part of people's lives. So it's gonna find a way.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so I have one more question comes to mind. I was talking to someone about Beams Optimizer, the gas optimizer. Do you know about that competition or that?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we were talking about that and talking about devs participating in competitions, and so if we have a tournament and the it's 10 grand you can win, right? Um, I asked him like, what's going to compel devs to actually participate in something like that, and he said that if you take something like Bean's Gas Optimizer, it was fun because you were doing a bigger thing, you know like, yeah, it's a game, but we're figuring out how to optimize. And he said the trick with on-chain games with like a bounty essentially is there's always a smarter dev, and so devs will just feel like someone's going to swoop in, grab it, and take off. So like, why would I even participate? And I thought that was really interesting. So I have thoughts on this, but thoughts like, well, yeah, but you're building a resume, and maybe there could be sponsors down the road if we tell your story right. Like, there's things that I see in the future. But what are your thoughts on uh, what motivates a dev? What would motivate you? We're going to do Zero X Monaco season 2. What would motivate you to actually be a part of that?
Okay. So I think the problem with the optimizer is that I think it's a pretty difficult game if you can think about it, and it's hard to be successful. So let's say, for example, that the number one programmer, they start playing the game, they're gonna win all of that, and then you won't see anyone else interacting with the contract because they cannot push them to number two.
Right?
So that's kind of a problem. So you have to make people play in an order that allows them to feel feel the win. But with optimizer, you cannot really do that.
Feel the
With
win. That's the phrase. Yeah.
yes,
Nice work,
uh,
man. That's I wrote that down. Yeah. Okay.
with 0x Monaco, it was much easier because you didn't have to be the best to feel excitement and to feel something like you're actually doing something good. So ladder, I think is important. Elo ranking is important, and not locking people out is important. So that's what I'm saying. Like with optimizer, if number one developer comes in, everybody's locked out. They cannot do anything. So multiple levels of difficulty is also something interesting because it allows people to get. So let's say I'm not a very good Solidity dev, but I'm willing to learn. If I have a level one, I'm gonna be able to start playing, kind of understand how the game works, and then just join in.
Well,
And you
it's a
could,
great way to do that because you don't have to worry about, like an SDK and setting up your environment, and like you don't have to worry about all that stuff. You can just start coding, which is, I take that point. That's really important, I think.
right, yeah. And then you can either design the game to have multiple layers of complexity or create different games with more difficulty or difficulty being higher. So the ideal way would be, so I did play for a long time StarCraft, which
Mm,
is not necessarily the easiest to pick up, but you feel like you can do something, and
right.
then you feel like you're good. But then I found out when I was 19 years old, I found out there was a South Korea scene, and those guys played like nobody else, and that was the beginning of esports. And since then, I became enamored with the whole space and tried to help it grow. I'm still playing games from time to time, not as much as I wish, but developer games, it's something like it doesn't make you feel bad for playing the game because you're kind of learning at the same time. And then you can apply that, and then you can add it to your portfolio. So it becomes part of your CV.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for just taking the time. This was really fun. It's great to meet you, and I appreciate kind of what you've done and what you're doing in the space.
Oh, thank you so much. Really hope you can make onchain gaming a reality for all of us.
We will, man. We will. Thanks. See ya.